Hello there. I was given a question. Did Harold Godwinson die at the Battle of Hastings? Short answer is yes. But there's a lot behind it leading up to it beforehand. So bear with us. The Godwinson family were the power brokers of their time. Harold's father was getting more and more influential, richer and more powerful. The king at the time was Edward the Confessor, St. Edward the Confessor to some people. Now, a confessor was very much aware that the Godwinsons were pushing. He outlawed them, to which the Godwinsons said, nah, we're staying. And as a result, to further the Godwinsons' cause, their daughter was married off to Edward the Confessor. Edward turned around and thought, well, I can't get out of this, but hey, guys, I've become a monk. That means I'm not allowed sex, which means you ain't going to get the foot in the palace door. There's not much they could say about that. Now, Harold Godwinson was highly respected earl. He seemed to be very popular at the time. He was on a mission, we don't know what or why, and his ship was wrecked off the French coast, and he was rescued, for want of a better word, by William, Duke of Normandy. Now, apparently they got on extremely well with each other. They went out hunting and killing off various people who had annoyed William. And it's said, though there isn't any proof, that Harold swore allegiance to William, that when Edward the Confessor died, he would announce that William was king. We don't know if this is true or not. It possibly is, but it would be more like a political move to stay safe than, I don't know. It may well have happened, we just don't know. So anyway, time moves along. Edward the Confessor dies. He was getting on a bit anyway. So Harold then is made king. This did not go down well with Duke William. Also from Norway, Harold Hardrade, Harold the Hard Man, wanted a reputation and thought being king of England would be the cherry on the top of his career. This split the family in two. Harold's brother Tostig went off to join Harold Hardrade, and the quote is that Harold will have only 6 foot of English soil to rule over, but as he's exceeding tall, make it 7. So Harold Hardrade lands in Yorkshire, and Harold Godwinson gathers his army and marches as fast as he can with his army, and the battle at Stamford Bridge takes place. And it is said that the Vikings were actually sunbathing at the time that Harold came and attacked, that a massive housecarl, house lord, held the bridge with his big axe, felling anybody that came near, and that somebody hit upon the bright idea of getting a barrel, a man with a spear, and he floated downriver and, to quote, brocked the housecarl, killing him outright. Brocked means they rammed a spear up through the bridge and into his gentleman parts and killed him. This then let Harold's army across, and they basically won the day. Now, all this time William had landed at Pevensey, Hastings, and wondered where Harold was. Well, of course he was up far north, and so to provoke him they started killing and burning villages and stealing livestock. Harold hurried all the way back down York, which is no mean feat. That's what, about 200 miles, and of course his army was tired. They'd fought a battle, they'd marched what, 200 miles, and some of the army had to be collected in London, but Harold didn't wait for that. He was in too much of a hurry. Now, prior to this, Harold had got like coast watchers, and they would watch the coast and see where William's fleet was. Well, one fleet basically rotted away, so he had to get another fleet, and as such he promised a lot of knights land, which he was gambling on winning. So eventually Harold formed along Senlac Ridge, or Blood Ridge, and he'd picked up along the way a lot of inexperienced soldiers. So the shield wall was up. They fired their arrows, and of course William had cavalry. Now these weren't nice little horses. They bit, they kicked, they spat and everything else. But one weapon that Harold had, which slowed down the cavalry considerably, was the Dane axe. That is an axe, the shaft of which comes to the shoulder, and a big axe. You imagine a line of these guys swinging them in figure of eights. Anything that goes near it would be like putting meat into a food processor. So William gambles. He fires arrows in the air, and even so, he kills a few people in the front line, but they soon close up again. He charges at the front line, and then he decides to go downhill. And with the inexperienced men, they say, "Oh, he's retreating." So they break ranks. Big mistake. So William then circles and destroys them. You'd think they learned the lesson, but no. He thought it worked once, maybe it'll work again. So William again charges uphill, all banners flying and things like that, and the shield wall holds. Then they return down the hill, and of course again these people follow him down, and once again they're enclosed and slaughtered. By this time the loss of those men had affected the strength of the shield wall. They charge again. This time they break through, and if you look on the Bayeux Tapestry, you see Harold with an arrow in his eye. Then the next one, you see the same chap being cut down by a horseman. I think, this is only my personal view, I think they are both injuries Harold got. Once Harold was dead, then they have no effective leadership. And William isn't. He just went in and slaughtered what he got. And a very spiteful and unpleasant thing he did next was to leave the dead where they were. They could rot. So you can imagine, for a generation, there's nothing but skeletal remains all over the place. Not a nice thing to do. Where was Harold's body? That's one of the big things. And people thought, well, you know, he's just got away with the others in a pit somewhere. On the site of the battle, there's an abbey called Battle Abbey. Apparently underneath the altar is a large skeleton with its head removed and part of his one arm, and it is said that Harold's body was hacked and identified by certain marks by his mistress Edith Swanheels, and apparently he had Edith tattooed on the left hand side of his body. She saw that, you know, and Robert's your father's brother, we've got a dead king. Later on it seems that his body was put under the altar. Under whose orders, I don't know. I can't imagine it would be William's, but there you go. So Harold's now dead. The way's open for William. He goes to London and is declared king on Christmas Day. And you'd think all would be rosy. Well, no. There was a lot of civil disobedience, things like your building of a fort. So the Saxons' favourite thing was to get a leather bag, fill it full of water, distract the foreman, put it in the foundations, and then build on top. The leather would eventually perish, and the water come out, and the whole wall would collapse, which didn't best please our Norman friends. it is said that William was a very harsh man. Well, to be honest with you, when you look at what was going on, I don't blame him. There's one of the Earls of Derby, I believe, who changed sides no less than 7 times. The loyalty of the Saxon lords was dubious, to say the least. And so he put his own men in. He had to fulfil promises he'd made to them. So you get Normans now ruling vast areas. It must have been a weird time, because the Normans speak Norman French, whilst the inhabitants speak Anglo-Saxon. Eventually it sort of comes together. But I must imagine that they must have sounded a bit like on the television series where they say good moaning and things like that. But we have hangovers from that, with various other words where Saxon and Norman combine. Like, well, there are various things, but anyway. So, long story short, that Harold was killed at the Battle of Hastings. We think we have his remains. We're not altogether sure. It seems fair enough to think that that's the case. But anyway, whenever you hear William the Conqueror, don't dismiss him as a nasty man. You have to be nasty to be a king. So, but what was Harold like as a king? Well, to all intents and purposes, he was a pretty good king. He tried his best. He lived in, shall we say, unfortunate times where you got people trying to claim his throne all the time. Didn't have much of a chance. And history, as they say, is written by the winners. A fascinating subject, well worth looking at. So, till we meet again, and the world is a happier place. I've been told I've got to say something, but I can't remember what it is.
It's to like the video.
If you like the video,
share the video.
Share the video.
And leave a comment.
And leave a comment.
Let's do that again on your own.
Let's do that again on our own. Like the video, share the video,
comment,
and leave us a comment. That was very painful, wasn't it? It pays to have a retentive memory.
Just do leave a comment again.
Just leave us a comment. Till we meet again, have a safe time, and bye.